Hello, Ambassador Christopher Collier here. Tyrone Collier, that is. Also known as Ambassador Ty Collier. Also known as Ambassador IDQ Collier. Today, we're going to be doing some reading from Sandra Brown's Smoke String. I shall read the back. It is New York, is number one's New York Times best-selling author Sandra Brown's newest novel of suspense. Explodes with corruption, deception, and murder. When newswoman Britt Shelley wakes up to find herself in bedside Charleston PD Detective Jay Burgess, she remembers nothing of how she got there or how he wound up dead. Burgess, which I really want to say Burgess. Let's say Burgess. It's spelled Burgess. But Burgess doesn't. Well, all right. Well, next flowing now. Burgess was one of four heroic city officials who risked their lives 5 years earlier to lead others to safety from a catastrophic fire. His lifelong friend, Rayleigh Gannon, was later assigned to investigate. But Rayleigh, or Raleigh, Raleigh never finished the inquiry because one calamitous night, his career was destroyed by a scandal. Now, the newswoman whose biased reporting helped bring about Raleigh's downfall might be his only chance to vindicate himself and get justice for the fire's victims. But the more Raleigh and Britt discover about the fateful day, the more perilous their situation becomes until they're not only chasing the truth but running for their lives. Sensational. A bang up tale of corruption, betrayal, revenge, and reversal. Liz Smith, New York Post. Excellent indeed. The Dallas Morning News includes a preview of smash cut Sandra Brown's brilliant new suspense novel, available in hardcover from Simon and Schuster. Okay. Who remembers how to do this? Am I right? Right? CPR. Guess the deaths have changed over the years, huh? I'm only going to be reading the prologue. All right, here we go. Thank God he was still asleep. Waking up to find herself in bed with Jay Burgess was embarrassing enough without having to look him in the eye. At least not until she had time to collect herself. As carefully as possible, she inched to the side of the bed and slipped out from under the sheet, trying not to lift it away from him in the process. She perched on the very edge of the mattress and glanced over her shoulder. The draft from the air conditioning went above the bed was cold, causing goosebumps to break out on her arms. Although Joe was naked and covered only to his waist, the chilly air hadn't roused him. Shifting her weight from the bed to her feet a little at a time, she stood up, the room tilted. To keep from falling, she instinctually reached out for support. Her hand found the wall with a smack that might just as well. Next page. Had been a simple crash for the reverberation it created in the silent house. No longer concerned so much about waking him as about wondering how in the world she'd got so terribly drunk last night. She remained propped against the wall, taking deep breaths, focusing on one spot until her equilibrium, let's move on, returned. Miraculously, her clumsiness hadn't awakened Jay. Spying her underpants, she crept to the foot of the bed and retrieved them, then tiptoed around the room, gathering strewn articles of her clothing, hugging each garment against her chest in a gesture of modesty, which under the circumstance was rather ridiculous. The walk of shame. The college phrase seemed apropos. It referred to a co-ed who sneaked out of a guy's bedroom after spending the night with him. She was way past college age, and both she and Jake were single, free to sleep together if they chose. If they chose? The phrase struck her like the cruel pop of a snapped rubber band. Suddenly, the shock of waking up in Jay's bed was replaced by the alarming realization that she didn't remember how she got there. And pay close attention to this, please. She didn't recall making a conscious decision to sleep with him. She didn't remember weighing the pros and cons and deciding in favor of it. She didn't remember being wooed until practically was obscured by sensuality. She didn't remember giving a mental shrug and thinking, what the hell? We're adults. She didn't remember anything. Looking around, she took in the layout and furnishing of the bedroom. It was a pleasant room. Tasteful. Page 3. Tastefully decorated and tailored for a man who lived alone. But nothing in it was familiar to her. Nothing. It was as though she was seeing it for the first time. Obviously, it was Jay's place. There were pictures of him scattered about, mostly vacation snapshots with various friends of both sexes. But she had never been in this room before, nor in this house. She wasn't even certain of the street address, although she had a vague recollection of walking here from somewhere. Yes, the wheelhouse. She and Jay had met there for a drink. He'd already had several when she arrived, but that wasn't uncommon. Jay liked spirits and had an amazing tolerance for large quantities of alcohol. She had ordered a glass of white wine. They'd sat and chatted over their drinks, catching up with what was happening in each other's life. Then he said, remembering now what he told her, she shivered, but not from the cold. She covered her mouth to catch a low moan and looked back at him where she was sleeping. She whispered a sorrowful, "Oh, Jay," repeating the first words she uttered when he broke the awful news to her last night. Can we continue this conversation at my place? He'd asked. I've moved since I've seen you. An elderly aunt died and left me all her worldly goods. Lots of china, crystal, antique furniture, stuff like that. I sold all of it to a dealer and bought a townhouse with the proceeds. It's a short walk. He was chatting, acting as though they'd been talking about nothing more worrisome than the approach of a hurricane season. But his news had, page 4, been a bombshell. Terrible. Impossible to believe. She'd been staggered by it.